40 years ago, we opened our doors with one mission in mind.
We'll be right back with the top 10 songs of 1983.
To sell quality American-made vehicles at a fair price.
You have arrived.
And we've loved every minute of the ride. Celebrating 40 years of Two Rivers Ford.
Okay, what's happening? Welcome in on this Monday morning. Hope your week is off to a great start. Lovely to have you guys here for the next 3 hours. I think we're doing a full 3 today, yeah? We had it easy the past couple of days.
That's what I'm told.
Okay, very good. Well, we will endeavor to try and keep you entertained and engaged for the next 3 hours or so. 615-737-1045. Get in here if you want to. Got a lot to get into throughout the course of today's show. Kevin Byard. We were off the air by the time that whole situation, entanglement, arose. We'll get into that. Got some detail on it in just a little bit. But meanwhile, Bud, your basketball team made it further than mine did, and I'm not happy about it at all.
That is a fact.
I was stressing. I really hate when Indiana plays late games. Fortunately for me, my nightmare is over. Their season is done, and I can go back into hibernation, sports fandom hibernation until next November.
Happy for you.
Thank you. I feel so much freer now. My 4-month headache is gone.
Got ugly there for IU.
God,
at the end.
Unbelievable. Miami's just a really, really good team. And I think their first round game was not indicative of who they actually are, but they just absolutely went out there and wiped the floor with my Hoosiers. Either way, Vols are in the Sweet 16. Indiana is not, so I got to eat it. In the meantime, a big win over Duke. If not the sexiest of performances, that's all well and good. If you can suffocate them and make your way through this region at this point, that should be the goal. Tennessee did exactly that as they continue their progress as a 4 seed, which reflects a season that, regular season-wise, you'd call it impressive, what they were able to do, even if things late didn't feel the way that you would like for them to feel. Doesn't matter now because Rick Barnes has 2 back-to-back wins in March, and you're feeling pretty good because the rest of the way through this thing, and we'll talk about Tennessee's path theoretically to the Final Four. If I told you that the toughest opponent remaining in your region was K-State, would you feel pretty good about your odds? I think most Vols fans would. If I couldn't have Indiana in the Sweet 16, at least I got Purdue out in historically bad fashion, which delights me and also happens to be in the University of Tennessee's region in the East. Purdue going down to Fairleigh Dickinson on day one, and it being a fairly decisive win for Fairleigh Dickinson.
That was awesome.
One of the more surprising things.
Was that, what's the bigger upset? Fairleigh Dickinson over Purdue or UMBC over UVA? UMBC, remember, took it to UVA. That was a 20-point victory.
Wasn't that the year after Virginia won the title?
No, Virginia won the following season.
Okay. Because I think in a title defense that would change the narrative substantially. They're probably right on par. I mean, it's the only time that those kind of things have happened, right? 16's over a 1. So I would hesitate to say that one right now is bigger than the other. I mean, what was the mascot for what I don't even remember. The
UMBC?
UMBC.
Wasn't it the
Retrievers?
It was a dog. It was definitely a dog, a pet. The Golden Retrievers or something?
No, I don't think it was. Maybe Retrievers. Retrievers sounds like something that should make sense. Either way, maybe the Virginia upset, just because it was such a margin of victory. Because
the Retrievers.
The Retrievers.
63. Mascot.
Well, what's Fairleigh Dickinson? I don't know. Are they the Eagles?
They're the Knights.
They're the Knights.
Yeah, the FDU Knights.
Okay.
Put up a fight against FAU last night.
Our dear friend Corey Curtis from WKRN News 2 has just texted me and says he believes that Virginia was the number 1 overall seed that year in the tournament. So if that is indeed the case, then Purdue, despite being a 1 seed, Virginia getting upset as the number 1 overall, it would be like Alabama this year losing to Texas A&M, but not Texas A&M, Texas A&M Corpus Christi, which they did not. They beat them by 21, as a matter of fact. Either way, Vols are in the Sweet 16, and the vibes are pretty high right now because if you look around at the way that they performed, and I was sitting there watching this game with a Texas fan, and the Texas fan was kind of going through it because not only was Texas not playing well or getting ready for a game later that afternoon on Saturday that would not set up well for them, but he was having to watch Olivier Nkamhoua have an incredible performance against Duke. It's very reminiscent of the Texas game. Kind of made you feel like they had that kind of momentum again in ways that we've talked about. Players that can step up at any given moment, that can go out there and perform offensively in a way that you require them to at certain points. Because sometimes in the tournament you just need a dude to take over. 27 points, 4 rebounds for Nkamhoua, 10 of 12 from the field. Perfect on his 3-point attempts. He was 3.
No, he missed one. Missed one late. Was 3 for 4. What are you looking at?
Oh, the wrong line on the box score. Either way, 3 for 4. Pretty good.
Unless that last 3 that he missed was ruled a 2. Are you looking at the final box score?
Yeah, I'm looking at the box score right now on ESPN.com.
Yeah, I thought he missed a 3 there late because I remember him trying to go 4 for 4. Maybe his foot was on the line.
Regardless, game of his life.
Yep.
In a big spot against Duke. And, I mean, regardless of how you...
Yeah, he was 3 for 4. You just lied to the people.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. It's just, sometimes I get confused with the lines being where they are. Either way, we figured it out. The way that they were able to handle this game, we know what the key to success for them is. Time in and time out, it's defense. And we know what their record is against opponents when they can hold them under 60. They are undefeated at this point. This is the thing that has been most reliable, if inconsistent, as of late in the last month and a half for the University of Tennessee that they've been able to kind of continue to fall back on. It's been a good setup, and the tournament sets up well for them the rest of the way through. The question is, can they now handle these expectations? Because K-State is a higher seed, but Tennessee's probably going to be looked at as the class of the East, I would think, at this point.
You got to worry about FAU first. Never mind K-State.
FAU is not to be trifled with.
The pressure is shifting now. The pressure was off Tennessee going into the Duke game, even though Tennessee was the higher seed. They were the underdogs. It's Duke in the tournament. But they just walked into that game holding a baseball bat with nails sticking out of it and just started swinging.
So as we sit here, by the way, Titans players are going to meet with the media. New free agent signings are going to meet with the media at 10:30. It looks like they've just agreed to they've just announced that they've agreed to terms with everybody, which means that everybody just passed their physicals. Like the team just announced all that. So we now have Andre Dillard, Luke Gifford, Aziz Al-Shaair, Daniel Brunskill all agreeing to terms with the team officially. So those players, I expect, We'll have media availability at 10:30. Lucas, we should probably carry a portion of that. I assume it will be live streamed.
Vandy Chris on YouTube says FAU is going to get the Vols.
Do you fear FAU at this point? I mean, because you were not we knew that Tennessee had the potential to face Duke should they win their first round game against Louisiana Lafayette. And that when we talked about this game against Duke, I don't remember you being quite as tense as what I'm getting from you right now about the mighty Owls of FAU. Your tone seems to have changed.
Again, the pressure shifts completely. Yeah. It's back on the Vols now. It's back on Tennessee, which it had been pretty much every game that Tennessee has played under Rick Barnes in the NCAA tournament. For the most part, they've been expected to win. That's why the disappointment has been so great of not getting out of the second weekend. Maybe with the exception of that Purdue game. I can't remember who was favored in that Sweet 16 game a couple of years ago. But otherwise, every game under Rick Barnes, Tennessee has played in the Big Dance. The onus has been on them to survive and advance. That was not the case in this game. Even though they were the higher seed, they were the underdog. They played like it. They dragged Duke down into the mud. They drowned them in it, and they move on.
Which is, by the way, what the analysis was coming into that game when we talked about it with Coach Alexander on Friday.
Yeah, and it was interesting hearing Tennessee players using that almost exact same phrasing after the fact. But now it's flipped, and FAU is 33-3. They've won a ton of games this year. They're fast. They're deep, but they are nowhere near as talented as Duke. And the expectation will be for Tennessee to take care of business against the 9 seed and take this opportunity in front of them to get to their first Elite Eight since, the 2009-10 season, I believe, under Bruce Pearl, 8-9 season, whatever it was, second Elite Eight in program history. The pressure now is completely flipped, and we'll see how they deal with it.
It will be fascinating. Thursday is when this game between Tennessee and FAU will go down, and it will be fascinating to see how the Vols respond in this moment. It's kind of like, you remember me making fun of Kevin Byard a little bit, which, by the way, he's sore subject for Titans fans as of late, given that your franchise just asked him to take a pay cut, and we'll talk about that here in just a second because it has not been received well. But I was kind of poking fun at Kevin Byard. I think that was week 2. And they were going up to Buffalo, or the week leading into week 2, for the Titans fans who remember. Going up to Buffalo, Monday Night Football, Titans are in a position where they are going to take on a team that they've had good success against in years past, but circumstances in 2022 felt a little different. And Kevin Byard gave a quote to the effect of, we'd rather be the ones chasing than be the ones being chased. And I said, well, that sounds to me like an incredibly loser mentality for professional athletes to have. How much winning do you have to do before you can finally get over the idea of being the one who has to chase? Why do you insist on being the underdog? Act like you've been there before. And then they summarily went up to Buffalo and lost 41-7. And I had to eat it a little bit. 615-737-1045. That's the way that I feel about the Vols at this point, going from the ones chasing to being the chased. Ty in Cookeville up next, or up first this morning. Hey, Ty.
Yeah, hey, Buck. I hope you're doing well today. I just wanted to comment and see your take on it. On Euros, he is such a dirty player, in my opinion. God bless him. The man had 2 fouls in 3 minutes, both to the same dude with an elbow to the head. But anyways, I just wanted to see what you had to think about that, and y'all have a good day.
So basically, do I think Euros is a dirty player? Doug Gottlieb seems to think so.
Yeah.
He said, I don't know if he was trying to say dirty Euros, as in Euros Plausic.
Or Euros as in players from Europe.
Because the way that his tweet read said dirty Euros as in
Euros.
Correct. As in the whole continent of Europe.
Yeah.
He was calling them dirty.
Yeah.
Which, little xenophobia there, not ideal. But listen, if he's on your team, you love it, right? Unless he does something boneheaded.
Right.
Which he did in this game that made you look around and say, mother bleeper, act like you've been there before. You're not good enough to be causing these kind of problems.
But after the fact,
team, yes, after the fact he responded. But I'm saying in the moment, when you see him make those mistakes or do those things because he's passionate and you don't want to try and coach the passion out of him, right? Those are the kind of things that frustrate you, I'm sure, as a Vols fan. Now, I personally like it.
Yeah.
I love it. But, I mean, I'm not going to get, like, if Trace Jackson Davis did that in the game, I would be furious because I care about them, advancing.
Well, it's not that after the fact he responded and played well. He had an okay game, but in the moment, those early fouls against Filipowski, the biggest narrative from Tennessee fans was, guys flopping all over the place. Like, yes, he was selling them, but they were both fouls on Uros Plavsic. Yeah. Like, they were both Euros sizing him up and then just running into him like a train. So in the moment, I was not very upset with Filipowski for flopping. I was upset at Uros Plavsic for 2 dumb fouls early on. But after the fact, I'm kind of changing my thinking on it because what that did to set the tone of that game, giving Filipowski the cut under the eye and 2 big hits before the first media timeout, I think that went a long way in showing Duke, like, hey, this is how this is going to go. And Duke wasn't ready for that. They played hard, they had good effort, but they were not prepared for the physicality of that game. And while it may lead to dumb fouls, I do think it goes a long way in just setting the tone. That's what Uros did. In the moment, I didn't like it. I thought they were dumb fouls. I was upset with Uros Plavsic, but afterwards, I was like, you know what? He set the tone.
I don't necessarily disagree with that as an assessment because now that you're kind of, I don't know, now that you're verbalizing it, now that the game is over and you kind of run it back through that prism, I don't disagree that it is a sports cliche as old as any when you say you're just going to come out and hit them in the mouth and set the tone. Well, maybe you don't hit them directly in the mouth, but maybe, as Lucas said, Uros runs into them like a freight train and does it a couple of times just to say, hey, you're not ready for the kind of physicality that we're about to give you for these next 48 minutes. So you better buckle up, Buttercup, because I'm going to be down here all day and jawing the whole time as he does it. 615-737-1045 is how you jump into the discussion. How would you assess the Titans' free agency acquisitions thus far? You're going to hear from some of them in about 10 minutes, and a new one officially signed as of this morning. We'll tell you what's going on with the Tennessee Titans down at St. Thomas Sports Park coming up next. Welcome back on this Monday. Hope you are having a great morning so far. Certainly are. A lot of fun tournament basketball going on. We'll get back to it in just a little bit, talk about the biggest bracket busters that we had. You holding strong back there, or is your bracket completely awash?
My champion is still alive, hanging on by a thread with injuries to UCLA. But yes, my bracket is awash.
That seems to be pretty much consensus at this point. There will be time for that, however. Titans making an interesting new addition to their secondary, reportedly this morning, Jordan Schultz of The Score. The Titans are bringing in Sean Murphy-Bunting, the corner formerly of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, one-year deal worth up to $5 million. Do you know how old he is? He's been around for a while, it feels like.
Sean Murphy-Bunting?
Yeah.
Oh, he's only been in the league 4 years.
He's 25.
Yeah.
I don't know why I felt like he'd been around longer than that. Either way, so he won a Super Bowl with the Bucs during the COVID season. He had 1 interception, 1 forced fumble, 6 pass breakups during the last 4 games of the 2022 season for Tampa Bay, and obviously a difficult season for Tampa, who did make the playoffs but petered out. So that's another value piece, young value piece, that doesn't put money on the books beyond 2023 at this point. And I think that when you look around and discuss teams who win free agency, this is a strategy that I prefer rather than going out and signing, record-setting, market resetting deals at various positions with more famous names. Now, a handful of these players are going to speak in about 4 minutes from now. For those of you who are interested in hearing from the new Titans free agents, they are having press conferences at St. Thomas Sports Park. Now, it was not announced which players would be speaking because the team did not officially agree to terms with a bunch of these players until apparently about 6 minutes ago, because that's when Jimmy Wyatt tweeted it out. So, like I said, physicals probably needing to be passed and all the paperwork, I's dotted, T's crossed before they can put them up at a podium in front of the rest of the Vultures.
Question.
Answer, maybe.
Can you tell me the oldest member of the Titans cornerback room as of today?
Sean Murphy-Bunting.
Close. Trey Avery is 26.
Trey Avery is 26?
Yes.
He was a rookie last year.
The point is, it's a young group.
Well, that's because Amani Hooker, I think Amani just turned like 24. Amani's either 24 or 25. He's very young, too. And then you have McCreary, Fulton, Molden, all on rookie deals. Byard is the oldest, but
of the defensive backfield, sure.
Yes, but that is up in the air, apparently, at this point. We will address the Kevin Byard reports and the Kevin Byard rumors, because there are 2 of those, or there are both of those things exist right now in the ecosystem around the Titans. But that is fascinating that Trey Avery is the most veteran player, or not the most veteran player.
Yeah,
he's the oldest player.
He just turned 26
So who
in
would
February.
would Molden be the most experienced player? Molden and Fulton came into the same draft class.
And Fulton was he wasn't terribly available last season, but more available than Elijah Molden.
Did he play 10 games? I don't think he played more than 10 games last year, Christian Fulton. Molden, he was much more available than Elijah Molden was. Elijah Molden didn't start the year out there, had the groin injury, came back out, had something pop, and then we really never saw him again.
So Fulton would have the most starts, or would it be Murphy-Bunting? It's probably Murphy-Bunting.
It might be Sean Murphy-Bunting.
Hey, he's been in the league 4 years.
Sean Murphy-Bunting might be the most experienced corner that the Titans now have on their roster. Again, that one not officially being announced by the team. The rest of them, Dillard, Key, Gifford, Alshire, all of those made official by the club about 15 minutes ago. So we'll see who's speaking. Lucas will let me know who's at the podium, and we'll carry parts of the press conference live. Respectfully to Luke Gifford, I'm not terribly interested in that as live radio, but I do want to hear from Andre Dillard. I want to hear from Arden Key. Maybe Alshire, depending on if time allows. We'll kind of pick our spots with all this and see who is available. But again, I like this strategy better than the big game hunting type of stuff that I think most people, fans, media, whomever, clamor for. Like when Talking Head X, Y, and Z or national NFL writer for whichever network or outlet puts together their free agency grades, and you go with the most famous players and the most famous names because those are the guys who are at the top of the market. Those are the guys who probably had the best production. Those are the guys that are going to garner the most engagement. It's not necessarily how you, quote-unquote, win free agency. Do you address your needs sufficiently? Do you get players at value? Do those players at value come with versatility, or are you just paying them to do one specific thing? Those are the kind of assessments that I'm running these moves through. And listen, we looked at this free agency class ahead of the 22 season and said, the AJ thing is really damning. I guess we hadn't gotten to the AJ thing yet. The AJ thing didn't happen until April. But with AJ on the roster after free agency and things like trading for Robert Woods and signing Austin Hooper, you said, okay, they have this thing figured out. And then they nuked it by trading away their most important offensive player, and the rest, we saw how it came about via injury and all kinds of other things. But Aziz, Brunskill, Dillard, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Key, and now you have the
you say Alshire?
I did say Alshire. Who am I forgetting? Key, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Dillard, Brunskill, Alshire. Who am I missing?
And yeah, I think you got it.
Okay, those 5.
And by the way, Murphy-Bunting is by far the most experienced corner now in this room. 53 career games for him.
Jake Downard on the Zone TV chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is how you get involved, poses it this way. Would you rather have the 5 free agents that the Titans have reportedly agreed to terms to, or one Orlando Brown? How would you rather do it? Would you rather spread your talent needs across the board, or would you rather invest heavily in one position that is, by the way, critical to their success? We saw how often they were undermined by their left tackle situation. And going about it. Oh, Gifford is who I forgot. Thank you. I'm probably gonna keep doing that to Luke Gifford, unfortunately. But by the way, special teams player who the Cowboys coaches think can have a bigger role on defense. That's the kind of stuff that you need to be finding if you're a team in cap hell that still has. They've cleared a lot of salary, but that salary isn't going to help them in 2023 necessarily. They're still very much up against the cap. So looking at all of the different transactions made, they can still alleviate some pressure if they want to with the things like the Byard pay cut that's being reported by Adam Schefter. We've talked about Derrick Henry's circumstance time and time again, and still nothing. Nothing. Not a noise, not a peep around Ryan Tannehill and any movement, cut, trade, or otherwise, regarding the Titans starting quarterback. Everybody else is being discussed this way, but not number 17, which I find to be interesting. You might as well. I think that the way that they've gone about this accomplishes 2 things, right? You've got players of need at positions of need. You've got players who can play multiple positions. Brunskill has played every position on the offensive line. Gifford is special teams and off-ball linebacker. Dillard is probably your starting left tackle unless they draft one at 11, and then maybe it makes more sense to shift him inside to left guard, but the right side of things does not seem to be a feasible option for him at this point. So if left tackle is Dillard, right tackle is NPF, and Aaron Brewer, who they tendered, is probably their center, you can probably plug Brunskill in at either guard spot, draft another one, and have that be the patchwork offensive line that you need while you try and fill in the depth around it. Maybe you find another center in the draft. Maybe you find another guard, another tackle, who may not necessarily be ready to start right away, but gives you better depth in the meantime. What you've done up front accomplishes that much at least. Now, skill position players with only 6 draft picks, you're going to have to draft a bunch of dudes. Lucas doesn't appear to think that they're streaming. You don't think they're streaming the press conference?
They're talking, but I'm not seeing them.
Okay, interesting. Well, if that becomes available, we will carry that press conference for you. If not, we'll be able to pull some social media clips because Dillard is up there now. I can see by a lot of tweets from our Titans media colleagues. So we'll see what he has to say. And worst case scenario, we'll play some of those social media clips on the radio show for you to hear from some of those players. I mean, the more that I talk to NFL people about this, the more that I think they're going to try and let this thing go with Dillard on the left side as long as humanly possible. And at least it's an option that they have on the table now. More options better than less at this stage. And then there's the discussion around Kevin Byard. The reports are, and we're going to dive into this more at 12:20. The report from Adam Schefter is that they did ask him to take a pay cut, and he's not necessarily amenable to that. In fact, he doesn't think that his level of play would necessitate a pay cut. His money is kind of complex because it's a 5-year extension that he signed, $70.5 million back in 2019, $31 million guaranteed. He's a 2-time first-team All-Pro, and he's got a cap hit of $19.6 million this year. That is tough. Now, it's a product of not just one restructure, but two, having to move money around for things like Julio Jones. There are ripple effects from the dead money that's still on your books, the deals that were made, the trades that were done, and the restructures that were associated with that. I remember having John Robinson on the first day that we had the radio show, the first day the radio show started. And Julio, I think, was one of the first things that we talked about, Lucas, if you remember better than I do, because I distinctly remember John saying of restructures, we don't like financially kicking the can down the road. And then that's exactly what they ended up doing, and the results are Derek's got a massive cap hit, Tannehill's got a massive cap hit, and Byard has a cap hit that's damn near $20 million, and you're suffocating a little bit. This is exactly why. The salary cap, you may consider it real, you may consider it not. But the implications at some point become real. It's like in government, right? We keep voting on the debt ceiling, and the country continues to be in a certain amount of debt. And every once in a while, when their back's against the wall, people who have to vote on the debt ceiling and continue to make sure that the government can function find a solution last second and just end up printing more money. It would seem. So we'll keep you updated with what the players are saying at the podium. We'll carry some of those comments here in just a second. Meanwhile, your phone calls are welcome. 615-737-1045. Sean in Knoxville is next. Hey, Sean.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good, bud.
Hey, I listen to you guys' show every day. I really enjoy it a lot. But I just had something quick to say about, the whole Ryan Tannehill situation. But, the thing is, I have an issue with people that constantly complain about something, but they don't offer a better solution. And, if you look back a couple of years, with Ryan Tannehill under center, we go to an AFC championship game, and we get the number 1 seed in the AFC 2 years ago, right? So, Titans fans are constantly complaining about it. I just want to know, like if you're going to complain about Ryan Tannehill under center, then just give us a better solution. Like, what is your solution? And right now, I don't see what that is. Like, I think we need to be, content that we have success, consistently in the last couple of years.
Thanks for the call, Sean. That is the question. Now, you and I can pose solutions, and whether the team acts on them or not are different matters, right? The solution in this case, the only solution that I would accept at the quarterback position that would require cutting Kevin Byard or somebody is if they were legitimately in on Lamar Jackson. And there are, I want to call them teases. I don't want to call them reports. There is rumblings, rumors. Look at you. You're already disgusted back there.
Reports is a strong word. I'm already frustrated at the way that article was phrased about Lamar Jackson linked to the Titans. No, he wasn't.
No,
he wasn't.
All right. So just so you know, there's a report out there, an article out there, let's call it, not necessarily a report, that is saying that there are things that could make sense for Lamar Jackson to come to Tennessee without there being actual quantifiable links. Nobody actually knows whether the Titans are involved in the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes or not. There is an article that makes it seem like they are without actually being in that, but we'll have time to kind of debunk some of those things later on. That's the fun stuff. 615-737-1045. How would you assess what the Titans have done in free agency thus far? We'll play you some comments from some of the players, Andre Dillard specifically, who is at the podium right now, and we'll talk about the result in March Madness that most busted our brackets coming up next. Titans free agents are at the podium over at St. Thomas Sports Park. Andre Dillard making some interesting comments. We'll have those for you later on, probably about the noon hour. So stick around. We'll also talk about the Kevin Byard situation then, too. Meanwhile, question we've asked you is, what do you make of the free agency approach thus far? What's it tell you about your new GM, the direction that your football team is headed in? And then we'll pivot back to some bracket busters from the first weekend of March Madness. Chuck in Clarksville is next. Hey, Chuck.
Hey, Buck. Hey, first of all, PSA, I'm not a player personnel professional or play one on radio or TV, but looking at this, what he's done so far, it looks like very good value picks. It's not overreaching. To me, it's not underreaching. He's doing a smart search and finding good value picks for us. I mean, you look at these guys, Bunning, $5 million. This guy was a part-time starter, most of the time starter for Tampa Bay. It's good secondary. You got Arden Keys, a good pass rusher. I mean, the tackle and then guards. I think Rand is doing a good job. Do you want to go out and reach to get an Orlando Brown? It probably doesn't want to even come here, and miss on these 6, or do you want to get these 6 and move forward and try and build a team? So that's my philosophy anyway.
Thanks for the call. Look at it this way. We did not have the Orlando Brown deal by the time. I think that got done over the weekend. I don't even think that was a Friday thing.
No, because Jonah Williams requested a trade Friday morning, and that was a product of the Orlando Brown signing.
Oh, maybe it's because we only did the show for an hour on Thursday and Friday last week, and we were doing college basketball. So at some point, Orlando Brown agreed to a 3-year deal with the Bengals last week, and that makes sense for Cincinnati, right? Cincinnati's a hell of a lot closer than you are as far as plug-and-play type of players. So, okay, if you have a dire need at left tackle, if you're the Bengals, go ahead and look around and say, well, that one's a big one. That's a big contract that we're going to have to take on. But if it is the difference between Joe having an extra fraction of a second to get the ball down to Jamar Chase, and that's the thing that really puts us over the top, then okay, let's make the move. Titans are not that team right now. What the Titans are doing is practical moves that are not going to tie them down against their salary cap, not just this year, but into future seasons. And that is all indicative of what these deals are. There is very little guaranteed money, apparently, associated with Andre Dillard's deal, even though it's a 3-year contract. There is not a ton of guaranteed money associated with Arden Key's deal, and it's only $7 million a year on average annual value. And the reported cap hit on Arden Key is about $3 million in 2023. So that's exactly the kind of thing that you're looking for. Al-Shaair, if he plays a certain amount, there are different financial triggers that can come into place that will make him more money. But these are not things that are going to be anything more than, if you play well here, then you'll have the opportunity to stay here. If it does not pan out, then the team's not on the hook. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in.
We need to think of something for this. We need to think of like a phrase for this. With the value they've been getting with each of these signings, right? Like Mickey's kind of coined Rand's plans and things like that, but there's got to be something to indicate the value that they're getting with all of these players, like Rand's bargains. Now, that's just a rough draft, but I'm sure we can do better.
What are you trying to do? I'm sure. Well, are you sure that we can do better? I'm not sure that we can do better. You remember that thing you had to open the show about Vols and expectations? Giving us expectations is probably a poor choice.
Rand's bargains it is.
Come on down. Well, it's like those. We need Rhett or Robert to do the impressions of the old timey like commercial type things. Rand's bargains. Speak of the devil and he shall appear.
He walked in right as you said his name.
From the shadows. My goodness.
Frantically unwrapping headphones.
Okay, well, that's fine. Let him frantically unwrap whatever he needs to unwrap, and then we'll get to him when the time comes. Bracket busters in the meantime before we pivot back to some Titans free agency talk. And, by the way, the Vols getting spring ball started this week. What was the biggest thing that burned your bracket down this weekend? Because the more that I look at this, I had Missouri making it to at least the Sweet 16. Princeton going on the run that they've had thus far, I don't know that there's been a more problematic situation for my bracket. Maybe Kansas losing to Arkansas this weekend, but Princeton being in the Sweet 16 has royally wrecked me from any chance of competitiveness other than I still have Alabama, who I have as my title winner.
I mean, it's about who you had going further of the teams that got upset. So if you had Arizona in your national championship game like I did, or if you had Purdue winning the whole thing, then you got screwed. But it's an interesting thing because
I hope if you had Purdue winning the whole thing that you got screwed. I do.
Yeah, but you're still rooting for the upset, right? Like even if you have a certain team winning that, like you're telling me that just because you have Purdue winning the national championship, you don't want Fairleigh Dickinson to knock off 1 seed Purdue in the first round?
You're talking about two different things, okay? First round, everybody's cool with upsets. First 2 days of college basketball, everybody loves the upsets, right? And then once you make it through the first 2 rounds and you have the round of 32 ready to go, then you're tired of the upsets because you want your bracket to win the money in your office pool or your family pool or whatever the case may be. Round of 64, give it to me. Give me all the Furmans, give me all the Fairleigh Dickinsons, what have you. I'm down. But beyond that, you can kick rocks with the upsets once you get through that first 2 days, because I think that's when people start to care about the money-making capabilities of what is left in their bracket.
I think a sneaky one is Michigan State. A lot of people had Marquette making it to the Final Four and winning that side of the bracket. That was one of the hottest teams in the country down the stretch in the end in the Big East tournament. And Michigan State just Tom Izzo'd them into oblivion yesterday.
Well, and that's the thing. What's the shocking fact that you gave me the other day about the last time that the Big Ten won a title? It was Tom Izzo and Michigan State in 2000.
Yep.
You know who remains of the 8 damn Big Ten teams who got in the tournament this year?
He's their only hope.
Tom bleeping Izzo with a team that has no business being there because Michigan State was not good this year, and yet there they are gutting it out. People are now coming up with God help us. People are now coming up with worse names than you've volunteered than Rand's bar game. It sounds worse the more that I say it. I don't like it at all.
Until you have something better, that's what we're sticking with.
I'll work on that during the commercial break. Results in college basketball this weekend, as Lucas said, Michigan State over Marquette. K-State over Kentucky, which was a 3 sending home a 6 seed, but still, I think people thought Kentucky might have a legit chance, but ultimately falling short. They're just not. Who is the most talented player in that game? K-State, Kentucky. Is it Oscar Tshiebwe?
On paper.
Oscar Tshiebwe right now is not an NBA draft pick. He's probably not a top 60 pick. If that is indeed the case, then can Kentucky truly be considered somebody who should have made a Sweet 16 run this year? Because I think you could argue that the next 3 or the next 2 or 3 most talented players were on K-State's roster.
Marquise Noel, man.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, that guy was unstoppable, and he was in the first round as well. I think he's combined for like 40-something points in the first couple of games.
People are demanding that I do a deep dive into the Indiana loss. No, I don't want to talk about Indiana getting thoroughly, not even losing, getting their asses kicked by Miami. I don't want to talk about that at all.
Well, you are getting, like, Indiana lost, but you could take comfort in the fact that Purdue goes down. You could take comfort in the fact that Kentucky goes down, that Duke goes down, and just go ahead and hitch yourself to the Tennessee bandwagon.
I had our friend Haley Murphy text me saying that I could hitch myself to Michigan State, which I refuse. Tennessee, I've said many times that my allegiance is up for sale, except when Indiana is playing, and now Indiana is no longer in it. And you're right, I do take solace that Indiana made it, that Purdue and Kentucky made it no further than Indiana did in the tournament, and then Indiana made it further than Purdue. That's moral victories.
I wonder what the conversation is in Lexington today.
How soon can we get John Calipari the hell out of there? Because, by the way, it's not just that Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky's got the number 1 recruiting class again, like next year. They got plenty of talented high school players that are coming in. Wildcat fans know this. And I think that the way that Kentucky tried to use the transfer portal was the interesting thing to me. Because those players, I did not feel were up to Kentucky's caliber that they acquired in the transfer portal this year. And I think you saw that bear itself out throughout the course of the season. Next year, if Tshiebwe's back again, It's possible. He's got COVID eligibility. And they have that influx of young talent that they're accustomed to having. They'll probably have some struggles early on in the season, but if you have a veteran player like that who's still on your roster, I don't think he declares for the NBA draft this year.
Kay Oldham says Carthon's coupons.
That's better.
That is better.
Cousin Roger, rancid choices. You don't like it. I'm trying to find a way to do a TJ Maxx pun with Rand Carthon, and I can't make it work. It's very frustrating to me. Perhaps we'll think about it during the commercial break. Meanwhile, we will get into the University of Tennessee. They're kicking off spring ball this week, and we have some questions revolving around that. We've also got some comments from some of the Titans' new free agent signings that have been speaking at the podium. We'll play some of those for you coming up in the second hour. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
Left tackle is definitely what I have my eyes set on. That's my goal. I'm going to compete, give everything I have to get that spot, but obviously, I'm willing to do whatever is best for the team at the end of the day, but left tackle.
Second hour underway. Welcome in. Welcome back. If you've been hanging out with us so far, we are delighted to have you one way or the other. Robert, Lucas, myself, we got you till 1 o'clock today. 615-737-1045 is how you make it happen on the phone lines. Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. If you want to hang out in studio with us on Zone TV, where all 4 shows are live streaming each and every day. Titans free agents have been speaking at the podium. You heard there in Lucas's update from Andre Dillard, who says that he has his eyes set on the opening at left tackle. So with that being said, there will be competition in all likelihood brought in for him, but right now he's the de facto player at the position. Brunskill and Gifford have spoken as well. We'll keep you updated on some of those comments, play some more of those for you in the noon hour. Meanwhile, well, let's take some phone calls and then let's pivot to Tennessee Spring Bowl, because that is something that is also happening this week. A lot of moving parts in local sports. Jackson is in Mississippi, not from Jackson, Mississippi, but Jackson in Mississippi is up next. Hey, Jackson.
Hey, but I am in Jackson, Mississippi.
Oh.
I will say I'm driving to Arkansas for work, but hope you guys are having a great Monday. I will gladly accept you to hook your wagon to the Must Bus, because I know you don't want to support a team that has your twin on it. But
you talking about Euros? I got so many of those this weekend. That's brutal.
Yeah, it's crazy. But so with all these talks of the pay cuts, with Kevin Byard, it's like Tom Brady took some pay cuts and stuff during his career. I know it's not comparing, the greatest football player of all time, to Kevin Byard and all that stuff. But, can Tannehill not take a pay cut? Because, his is the most caps this year. They can cut his money back if they want to. Why don't they go to him? Or, does that question make sense? I just, why do they go to Kevin about that? Why don't they go to Ryan or maybe even Derek to cut their money back just a little bit? I don't know. Maybe you can clear up that confusion or, give some insight to that.
Thanks for the call, bud. 615-737-1045. They could. They have to ask him. And Byard apparently is the only one that's been asked. Now, I can't tell you what the logic is. The thing about the quarterback circumstance here in Tennessee is he's more important than the other two are. Now, I know that is blasphemous to so many people. I understand. I don't care how you feel about Ryan Tannehill. I don't care if you like him. Don't care if you don't like him. Don't care if you're still pissed at him about the Bengals game. Don't think, don't care if you're somebody who stands for him. It makes no difference to me. But the reality of the situation is the quarterback is the most important player on the football team. Down in, down out, week in, week out, quarterback, most important player. Now, I don't know if that's got anything to do with the idea of not wanting to rustle his feathers any more than just having him out there in limbo would be. But everything that you do unless it's an untenable situation at quarterback, which it is not at this point. It is not untenable. You may not like it, but it's not untenable. Then you jack with the quarterback last, I would imagine. Now, I would think that the Kevin Byard situation, I don't like the idea that they went to Kevin Byard and asked him about a pay cut, even as I look at the money and things that make you go, ugh, because it's really not a good financial situation that he's got them in, byproduct of those restructures. But, why not approach Tannehill? I mean, I don't have any quantifiable reason for you other than I'm not messing with the quarterback unless I absolutely have to. And right now they don't absolutely have to mess with the quarterback. Meanwhile, spring ball for the University of Tennessee getting ready to go down this week, getting ready to ramp up. The orange and white game taking place in April at this point. Lucas, what excites you about the University of Tennessee getting back on the practice field? Now, wait, you know what delights me? How often you forget to turn on my microphone for the streaming audience that you've forgotten to do so for yourself.
Would you look at that?
You sabotaged yourself.
Oh, man. I played myself.
Justice.
Fantastic.
Continue.
For me, it's the newcomers. Oregon transfer Deontay Thornton, the wide receiver, big physical receiver with speed that they bring in to add to that room with Squirrel White, with Brew McCoy. And then it's the early enrollees, how quickly those guys get ingrained, especially at positions of need at corner. And Heupel talked about how obviously they were thin at corner to begin with last season. Then they started to get hurt, and that certainly hampered them in the defensive backfield. But how soon do 15 early enrollees that Tennessee has at spring practice start to work their way into the depth chart on both sides of the ball? And then the last thing that I'll say on here, Cam Seldon, 4-star receiver, comes in, able to play running back, able to play wide receiver, played all over the place. He was the one that started hearing Deebo Samuel stuff thrown out there. Heupel did say today they're going to start Cam Seldon at running back. They're going to start him in the backfield. They're going to get him acquainted with pass protection, with running the football, and then start to move him out wide, start to move him in the slot, and just see different places that they can put him. So it seems to me Cam Seldon is going to be used in a lot of different ways at Tennessee. But it's obvious all the headlines are going to point to the big, shiny new 5-star quarterback.
We didn't talk about this thing. I wasn't here for the head coaching rankings that Bruce Feldman at The Athletic put out. Did you guys talk about those at all?
No, we did not. We talked about, when Keith Bullock was in here a couple weeks ago, my dumbest thing in sports was Dennis Dodd put out a CBS 23 things to watch in spring practice in college football. And number 22 or 23, one of the last ones at Tennessee was about Tennessee, and Nico Iamaleava, his first spring practice under Josh Heupel. And then there was a line in there from Dodd that said, now there are whispers coming out of Knoxville that Nico may not be worth the millions of dollars in NIL money.
Yeah.
And I was like, how can that possibly be true when you've been on campus for a couple of weeks, when you haven't even thrown a football yet in front of any coaches, spring practice hasn't started up, you're just working out and doing meetings and whatever else you do before spring ball starts up. So I thought that was interesting from Dennis Dodd a few weeks ago.
Let's hear from Josh Heupel on what I think is going to be kind of the biggest element of scrutiny. Nico Iamaleava, as Lucas said, we know that Joe Milton is the starting quarterback, but let's hear from the head coach on the very, very promising young freshman who may or may not have millions of dollars of NIL money associated with his presence.
Well, he's going to be pushed extremely quickly. Just look at where we're at the quarterback position. So great urgency is going to be needed for him. He's extremely coachable. He's a guy that's, from the moment that he stepped foot on campus, that's bowl preparation to coming back here end of January when we started the winter semester. has been phenomenal. He's got great urgency. He cares a great deal about learning his craft, learning our offense, but learning his craft at the quarterback position. Takes coaching extremely well. He resets, moves on to the next play at a really high level. He's come in, he's worked. Guys believe in him, and I'm just talking about how he carries himself. And slowly you've seen him start to grow into taking more ownership. He's still really young, but excited to have these 15 days with him.
So that's Josh Heupel on the freshman quarterback, Nico Iamaleava. We will keep you updated with things that we learn. Well, I'm sure we'll have somebody on at the end of the week to talk about things that were learned in Knoxville at the first week of spring practice for the University of Tennessee. Meanwhile, the basketball team is in the Sweet 16. The SEC's got a couple of candidates still in the tournament, and we have a lot of things that the Titans free agents had to say to discuss. We'll get into that and your phone calls coming up next. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Welcome back to the show on this Monday, almost afternoon. Vols back in the Sweet 16. 2 big tournament wins for Rick Barnes and the boys in orange. Now, we were talking about the idea that it was unexpected, just for the show's rooting interest. ECU wasn't in the tournament, were they, Robert?
They were not in the tournament. The women's tournament they were, and they got housed by Texas. I was watching the first part of that game, and then I decided that I'll probably never watch women hoops again.
March Madness is about the only time that I'll watch, and it's got nothing to do with like, dislike, whatever. It's just women's basketball happens to be on more often. There's tournament basketball on, so I'll turn the tournament on. It's probably the most women's basketball I'll watch at any point in the season.
Lady Vols play Toledo tonight at 5 in Knoxville.
Indiana, I think, is the number 1 overall seed.
Blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares about Indiana. Weren't you guys talking about, quotes or phrases to describe Rand's shrewd business deals this offseason?
Rand Carthon, Titans general manager. Yes, we were. The submission, the show's submission, the show's biggest contribution to that is Rand's bargains.
I just wanted you to say that. I wanted you to say Rand's bargains. I've got a couple here. You tell me what you think about them, all right?
Okay.
Rand's rollbacks. You remember prices on a rollback? Who another goes down? Like when Walmart was actually cool and they had like the bouncing smiley face.
Unless Walmart wants to spend money with this radio show, then they are still cool and we love them very much.
Get it out of the list. Close out Carthon.
Close out Carthon, that makes him sound like a car dealer. I'm not opposed to that.
Or like a great basketball player.
All of these are better than Lucas's.
Rand Telethon.
Oh.
No.
What do we – yeah, usually I want to side with Lucas, but that was rough.
That's bad.
That's okay. Here, wash your mouth out with this.
That was subcar.
What? Nope. Let him sit in it.
I still think Rand's bargains is being slept on. Okay, and I don't think you're giving it enough credit.
Somebody said in the YouTube chat, Rand's blue light special.
Hey, there you go. That works too. What about rebate Rand?
Rebate Rand also better than Rand's bargains. And whatever could keep me having to say that into a microphone again, that would be swell.
You keep saying it. I hope you say it after this one. Carthon's concessions.
Ooh, concessions makes it sound like they're settling. How do you feel about that?
I don't care. I just came up with a list of things that sounded good.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is more about getting value. Value is the name of the game here.
Yeah, but
what's Rand's full name? Like his name can't be Rand.
Rand, it starts with an A. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I don't want Robert to pronounce it.
Are you sure?
I really don't. Well, why don't the two of you look up the pronunciation and we'll take a call on this very subject. Vin in Nashville is next. Go ahead, Vin.
Rand's two-tone blue light special.
Rand's two-tone blue light special. It's a little wordy. Is my only thing. But I don't hate it. It's a better submission. All of these better than Lucas's.
Trippin' Titans on YouTube says Rand's bargains is the best one.
No. You found the one. See, this is the only time he uses the YouTube chat.
To support my arguments.
To support your argument, to find something that you want to talk about that I'm not currently talking about.
Okay, just to
work out your frustrations, it would seem.
Let it marinate for a bit.
Perhaps therapy.
Let it marinate. Rand's bargains.
That's fantastic.
I knew you would come around on it.
No, it's not fantastic, self. I'm going to start doing those Two Rivers ads by thanking myself again. Do we have that back there?
I did not have you thanking yourself.
That may have been a one-day thing. Tough scene. Meanwhile, we'll get back to it later on in the show. Vols, the path to the Final Four has never looked more attainable at this point. The wins for Tennessee over Louisiana Lafayette by 3, and then a pretty decisive win down the stretch in the second half over Duke now sets up this matchup with FAU in the Sweet 16, and the winner of that will play the winner of K-State, Michigan State. It is entirely feasible, and the Vols entirely capable of winning the East region at this stage. The question is, do they have the juice to do it? Now, Josiah Jordan-James thinks they have the strategy. It was something that we talked about leading into the Duke game for the entire hour, basically, that we were on air, or at least that portion of the hour that we were talking about the University of Tennessee. So Triple J post-game talked about the way that they had beaten Duke, and here was him in his own words.
They're really talented, but in games like this, in a tournament like this, talent can only get you so far. Obviously, they fought hard, they were physical, but I just think that, the adversity that we've been through, we have older guys. I just feel like, we knew what we were getting ourselves into and we were prepared for it.
You said taking them to the what?
Taking them to the mud.
Taking them to the mud. This is something you guys have talked about all year?
Not all year, just for this game specifically. Just making it physical, making it a dogfight, and we knew that if we turned the game physical, it would play out in our favor.
So take him to the mud. That's exactly what they did. Can they do the same against FAU? Can they do the same against K-State or Michigan State should they advance? And how feasible that's become. Now, we've discussed the idea of expectations changing, and certainly the level of expectation for Tennessee has dramatically shifted. In fact, I think it's come full circle a little bit, right? Robert had a clip for me on the primetime show last night of Rick Barnes in the postgame locker room. And, they're going crazy. They slapped the Vols on the Sweet 16 slot. They're bouncing around. They're playing music. And Rick Barnes says, they thought we were dead, but here we are, baby. We're living, or something like that. Something to that effect. They thought we were dead. And he's right. I didn't think this was a Sweet 16 team. I don't think anybody in good conscience who's watched them in basically the months in the month of February, the entire month of February, would have said with great confidence that this is a Sweet 16 team. But with the way that their region broke down, with the way that the top seeds in their region got eliminated so early on in the process, where both Marquette and Purdue got ousted prematurely, or at least before anybody had expectations for them to get bounced, Tennessee now has to operate as the favorite, I think. K-State is a fascinating team. And their coach, his last name is Tang, Jerome Tang. Jerome Tang, which, by the way, great name. Jerome Tang and K-State beat Kentucky over the weekend. Now, they were the higher seed. They were the better team. They're arguably the more talented team. And that was not lost by any stretch of the imagination on Jerome Tang. This is what K-State's coach had to say about the idea that it was a big deal for K-State to be able to beat a program like Kentucky in the tournament.
Jerome, how much of a statement is this for you in your program? First year, beat a program like Kentucky, and you're going to New York to play in the Sweet 16.
Well, we have a program that's rich in tradition also. And like all those old dudes that played for Kentucky, they ain't coming back, right? Tradition does not help you if you don't get out there on the floor and play with some dudes. And we had more dudes than they did today. And that's what that was.
Love that.
Flatly. I mean, he's right. That's honesty. That's transparency. And now whether K-State and Tennessee end up meeting up, whether Tennessee's able to advance out of the Sweet 16 into the Elite Eight for only the second time in quite some time, is a matter of discussion, and we'll see how that comes to life on Thursday, if it indeed does. But they have eclipsed their tournament expectations from the public. They've eclipsed their tournament expectations probably from the fan base, probably from the people who watch them most closely. I think that they have exceeded this, but I think when I say that it's come full circle, I'm kind of about where I was started with Tennessee. That this is a team that should probably be contending for a Sweet 16 at minimum in the tournament, that had the talent prior to the season starting to do so, and has a good enough coach that, despite his record in the tournament, I think is capable of guiding them without making critical errors that can often cost you, the way that sometimes you see a coach have a brain fart from time to time.
It reinforces this, and it happens every year, that most of the time your form or your manner of consistency going into the tournament ends up having nothing to do with how you actually fare in the tournament. And I do this every year. I look at teams in the first round and think, oh, well, they've lost, 5 of their last 10. They're up and down. They're inconsistent. Don't really trust them to get on a run here. But it's just about matchups. It's just about getting hot at the right time. Tennessee was inconsistent down the stretch. Arkansas was inconsistent down the stretch. Both of these teams are in the Sweet 16. And some of the hottest teams in the country, like Duke, are going home.
So another team like that's Kansas. We talked about Kansas. Let's take a look at the 3 SEC teams remaining. We've talked a good deal about Tennessee. Arkansas and obviously Alabama are still in the mix. And looking at the situation for Arkansas, they've done exactly that. A caller earlier brought up the Muss Bus. Apparently, I'm a welcome bandwagon member there because anytime I wear anything orange, Tennessee loses. And I've successfully not done that through the tournament. Here, Indiana is on the couch, and there's Tennessee on their way to the Sweet 16. But Arkansas has been a popular upset pick, and Eric Musselman's group is, I think, indicative of what you've just outlined. The momentum that you may enter the tournament with, that you may come out of your conference tournament with, whatever the case may be, it's almost kind of nullified. Once you get into these neutral site environments, once you get out of the comfort of your own conference or the familiarity of your own conference and different opponents that you see on a regular basis, Michigan State, I think, is a good example of this, as is Arkansas. Now, I know we're specifically looking at the SEC teams, but I brought up Michigan State because they were not a good team in the Big Ten this year, and they're the only one of 8 Big Ten teams remaining. They've got a coach who's experienced. They've got a team that's not the most talented, but seems to trust in what it is that they're being asked to do and has played well together at the right time. And that's what it is. So all your pre-tournament analysis almost washes away. It's why the brackets get so ridiculous, because a lot of this stuff is just up to chance.
And a lot of the things that do matter have played into why Tennessee's in this spot. They're old. They are older than the teams they have played to this point, especially Duke. FAU is also a very, very young team. So we'll see.
What's the average age of Tennessee's roster right now? Do you know that off the top of your head?
That's a good question. I can find out. But there are quite a few seniors on this roster. I mean, and ironically, all guys that could come back if they wanted to and utilize that COVID year. Santiago Vescovi, Josiah Jordan-James, Uros Plavsic. Those guys can come back
if they so
choose. I think.
Would you want some of them back?
Well, yeah, look, if you can get the more depth you have, the better. The more guards you have, the better, sure. I think there's probably plenty of fans that are ready for the Uros Plavsic experience. That maybe it's run its course. Although he's played a big role in this.
Very much enjoy it.
He's played a big role in this, but it does get frustrating from time to time. I feel like he's talking at times that you don't want him to be talking, but he's that guy for Tennessee. Every team kind of needs to have that guy that the teams that you're playing in opposing fan bases just love to hate, and other fan bases, other teams clearly love to hate Uros Plavsic.
So Alabama, as we mentioned, still remains. They did well to really dispatch Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and then Maryland. After that, San Diego State, who ended the dream of potential Cinderella, Furman. They were never in that game at all. I watched a good deal of that, mostly the second half. And San Diego State just ran away with it. They were hitting basically everything, and they weren't really that strong from the perimeter. Alabama, it's going to be, I think that should be a good matchup. At least it projects a good matchup. Miami advances to the Sweet 16, as does Houston, who sends Auburn home after Auburn did well to get a win over Iowa. Wasn't certain that they would be capable of doing so, but Houston-Miami will be the Sweet 16 matchup. And in the Midwest, additionally, Xavier and Texas both making it out of their side of things. Arkansas and UConn may be my favorite game of the upcoming round of the Sweet 16, because Gonzaga UCLA is interesting, but Arkansas, UConn, who's been so strong throughout the course of the year, and Arkansas, who has the potential to make your life a living hell. I don't necessarily know how to pick that game, but I'm fascinated to see the way that it plays out.
Have you seen these comments from FAU head coach Dusty May about preparing to face Tennessee?
About watching rugby film or something like that?
Yeah.
Do you have them handy?
Have you heard? Yeah. Tell me if you consider this a compliment or a dig at the way Tennessee plays.
We're going to study Australian rugby rules and get ready for the Vols.
Sounds like he's been watching Euros.
The response from that has been, "Oh, look at this guy. He's like already in your head. What a loser." I don't know.
Vols fans are saying that?
I don't see that as I don't see that as
doesn't sound like a shot.
Taking a shot. No, I think that sounds like him saying, "Yeah, we're about to get into a physical battle."
What was the Dabo burger flipping comment or something like that? about the University of Tennessee that people
Oh,
like that?
Dabo it was like an offhand comment, and it was on his coach's show before they played South Carolina, right after Tennessee lost to South Carolina, and you just saw with Tennessee that they think they're going to be home flipping burgers during championship weekend in the playoff, and they forgot they got to go out and play, and then they got bounced by South Carolina the next day next week.
Why is that a dig to say we're going to study Australian rules rugby to get ready for the Vols?
Yeah, I don't see it that way, but people seemingly are looking at it like
it just
that.
means that you're a bunch of glass eaters out there. You're
Is that him
bang
calling
around on the
Tennessee like dirty? Maybe that's how people are taking it. I'm taking it as him saying, "Yeah, this is going to be a fight."
I can't speak to the nature of Australian rules rugby. I imagine that there is probably some dirty play going on in there. Rugby, just in general, you seem like you can get away with a lot in a rugby scrum. So maybe that is his assertion. I don't know. Maybe he saw Euros have those kind of flat fouls that maybe you deem unnecessary, but can serve a purpose to set the tone is your goal. But no, I think that Tennessee is capable. The question is, do you trust them? Do you trust them? I didn't in the regular season. Tournament basketball is different. I don't necessarily know that this is a team that's equipped to rattle off 4 or 5 straight wins in a tournament fashion, but thus far they seem to be pretty comfortable with what they're being asked to do. They didn't seem to get outside of themselves against Duke. Right? That I think is the thing that kind of dictates or determines Tennessee's level of success. If they can stick with their style of play and the opponent doesn't do too much to rattle that cage, then they can handle things. If not, and if they get taken out of their pace of play, which is similar, you heard Coach Casey Alexander last week kind of describe it as Virginia-esque, right? If you get taken out of that pace of play, which is very, very deliberate, very determined, very defensive-oriented, then yeah, you can have some of the results that you saw in the regular season down the stretch, but it seems like Tennessee's in a good spot for that right now.
But what if you don't get that performance from Olivier Cumwa?
You lose.
Right? I mean, we've never seen that in back-to-back games from Olivier Cumwa, performance dominant like that, especially from beyond the arc.
No, in fact, it's all that we, I think, have been consistently asking for. And the fact that he shows it from time to time, it hasn't looked like that since Texas.
No. But the good thing for Tennessee fans is Olivier Cumwa finally did to someone what a random player seemingly does to Tennessee every time in the tournament. Every time they get bounced. It was Ryan Klein of Purdue hitting like 9 3-pointers in the Sweet 16 a couple of years ago. It was Hunter Dickinson, who's already a great player for Michigan, getting hot from outside. And so Duke fans on Saturday are like, of course, Olivier Cumwa, one of their bigs, goes 3 for 3 from beyond the arc before he misses one. We were destined to lose. Usually Tennessee's been on the receiving end of that type of performance in recent years.
So Lucas loves when people complain about things in the YouTube chat. Makes him very happy. Like Seth Westover, who says, I can't stand this time of year having to try and fill hours of radio with insignificant BS. I'd rather have hours of speculation over football. At least then we can get more than nonsense from everybody. Oh, wait.
We're talking about things that actually happened this weekend.
Wait, what?
What does that mean?
Can I read this guy? Because he goes on, especially Buck, with his rugby comments. Come on, Robert. Please emerge from the shadows and save us. Wait. Wait a second. The allegation, as I understand it, is that we are filling hours of radio with insignificant BS. When we're talking about tournament basketball, and Tennessee's not local, but they're local. Tennessee being in the Sweet 16 is being described as insignificant BS. And the cure for that is the person whose most famous appearance on this show revolves around wiping himself with his bare hands. That's the solution that's on offer here?
You just spent the last break trying to lecture me on being obsessed with the YouTube comments.
Well, yeah, but that one pissed me off because it's mind-numbingly stupid.
It is.
I'm going to read that again. I can't stand this time of year having to try and fill hours of radio with insignificant BS. Again, I add tournament basketball, parenthetically. I'd rather have this is where he lost me. I'd rather have hours of speculation over football. At least then we can get more than nonsense from everybody. Yes, so let me sit here, hold your hand, and give you a sippy cup filled with Aaron Rodgers coming out of darkness retreat nonsense and Lamar Jackson. Will my team trade for him? Will my team not trade for him? Let me do that for 3 straight mother bleeping hours today, instead of talking about the Tennessee Volunteers in the Sweet 16.
We've done that a lot, too, this offseason.
What?
Just the
no, the one day that we don't. Oh my God.
Will they? Won't they? That's what a lot of this offseason is.
Punch me in the face. It's not. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that Seth is stupid. I'm saying that he's displaying the behavior of somebody who is stupid.
He's also part of the minority.
But that's fine. It's just the one. Robert does this to me on primetime, like because I'm casual about the comments, the way that sometimes you're not. He'll highlight the ones that he knows are going to piss me off on primetime just to see if he can, like, wake me up a little bit. It's a very successful strategy. Anyway, let's talk. Wait, what else? What's next in my grid, you ask? Don't overreact to Lamar Jackson Titans reports. We'll do some silly, insignificant BS coming up next. So we were at Party Foul Thursday and Friday last week. By the way, so cool to hang out with some of you from Murfreesboro, some of you in Cool Springs. Always enjoy hanging out with people who listen to the radio show or watch the primetime show. Great to see you guys. Thanks for coming out and hanging out with us, and thanks to Party Foul, as always, for having us. We love to do that for the first couple of days of the tournament every year. But while we were at Party Foul, Austin, who owns Party Foul, came up to me as I was walking out of I think it was Thursday in Murfreesboro, getting ready to leave. And he was holding up his phone to me. And he said, "Hey, have you seen this? Is this real?" And it's a report, quote unquote, from a random dude on Twitter. No check mark, no accreditation, 7 followers. It just says senior NFL insider on his bio. But it's saying that the Titans have offered Lamar Jackson a 5-year contract, blah, 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 first-round picks on their way to the Ravens. Bull. Oh, I almost said the word. I got close. I scared you, didn't I, bud? But it's bull, right? Just nonsense. People getting got by things on the internet. Now, this is a landscape where that happens quite frequently. And it's not Austin's fault. He saw a report linking his team to Lamar Jackson. Of course, you're going to gravitate towards it and ask the Titans reporter, who just happens to be 5 feet from you, "Hey, is this a real thing?" And I said, no.
But that's not what we're talking about here, is it?
No, but it's a symptom of a larger problem. Because then I have this from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN on SportsCenter on Sunday. Quote, "Right now, there's no real firm offer sheet for Lamar Jackson that I'm aware of. Teams are probably slow playing this. The draft could be a good indicator because you have a team like the Colts at 4. If they feel like they can't get the quarterback of the future they wanted to draft, maybe they pivot to Lamar Jackson. The Jets, if they strike out with Aaron Rodgers, obviously this was pre-Rodgers, that's not expected, but they could pivot to Lamar Jackson." Then he goes on to add, and then you got some wild cards, like Tennessee or New England. Teams that like to run the ball, you never know. All right. The word Tennessee was said in the same sentence as Lamar Jackson. And then you got some wild cards like Tennessee or New England, teams that like to run the ball, you never know. That constitutes, apparently, some kind of link to Lamar Jackson and the Tennessee Titans in ways that are infuriating to me. How can I get you to look at that line? Maybe you didn't see the spot on SportsCenter. That's okay if you're not watching Sunday Morning SportsCenter. Maybe you didn't bother to click on the link that had the full quote in context about, just in passing, Tennessee and New England. They like to run the ball. Why not? That's basically how I read this. And yet, I wake up on Sunday to just many texts and tweets asking if I had seen this situation about Lamar Jackson and the Titans, this reported link. No, there's no link there. It's just kind of tossing something out. Now, it's possible that Tennessee has done due diligence on Lamar Jackson. It'd be a fireable offense if they didn't. But you cannot present to me that as the quote and say, look, the Tennessee Titans are being linked to Lamar Jackson. Are they going to do it? Is this why they're cutting Kevin Byard? Blah, 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 blah.
We're seeing this in real time right now.
From what?
M-Boy in the YouTube chat, here we go again, says Bleacher Report saying that they're talking to him.
I'm literally reading Bleacher Report.
Yeah, Bleacher Report saying they are. Look it up. Bleacher Report, number one, is not saying anything because Bleacher Report doesn't tend to break news. They aggregate news. They send out push notifications and all of these things. Bleacher Report is the one that aggregated the quote that you're talking about from Jeremy Fowler on ESPN. They said nothing about the Titans are speaking with Lamar Jackson. It's literally Jeremy Fowler going on SportsCenter and saying, hey, yeah, this could be a good fit because this team likes to do that. Hey, I can see this. Nothing more concrete than that.
Buddy, today is March the 20th, yes? I'm reading the article from Bleacher Report, March 20th, 2023, ESPN Patriots a wild card for Ravens Lamar Jackson amid Titans and Colts rumors. That it's a Bleacher Report as hell headline like that right there because you get all the buzzwords, right? They're doing the thing. They're playing the notes. They're playing the hits. But I'm literally reading the article that is being sent to us as saying that's what they're saying. Look it up.
They're talking to him.
You look it up. Read the damn article. Because in the damn article that you're telling me to look up, and then you got some wild cards like Tennessee or New England, teams that like to run the ball, you never know. I mean, am I to the point in the NFL offseason? I sound manic, where you never know is what I have to deal with when I walk in here. Look, the Titans are talking to Lamar. You never know.
Well, I think the basis of it was from further down where Fowler says he's talking to executives around the league, and they're telling him what teams might make sense. And Fowler says they mentioned Tennessee, who just cleared some cap space. They have a new GM in Rand Carthon working on the roster. They could use a running quarterback. They have experience with that in the past.
Agreed. All of those things are true.
Those are all true.
Yes.
And none of those things are the Titans are speaking with Lamar Jackson. Did you see that Bleacher Report reported the Titans are speaking with Lamar Jackson? It's not what's happening here.
But this, I mean, listen, is it now our lot in life to just exist to discern between reports that people should be taking seriously and reports that people should not be taking seriously? Like, is that what free agency is just going to become? Because, like, I kind of feel like we're trapped. Like, I don't think that, because somewhere, who was it that was yelling at us? Seth was telling us to talk about this nonsensical Lamar Jackson stuff.
Yes.
Lebowski writes on YouTube, Seth, oh, by the way, miss you. Haven't seen you in a long time.
Hello,
Hope you're well.
Lebowski.
Seth is listening to his requested Lamar speculation segment, cigarette in mouth, breathing heavily. He got what he wanted. Do you feel good about what we just did there for 10 minutes?
I never feel good about what we've just done.
Thank you for your confidence. What the Titans have just done, they've let a bunch of free agents speak to the media at the podium. Some interesting quotes from Andre Dillard and Arden Key. We're going to play those for you coming up next, and we'll talk about the most interesting things that were said. We'll also get into the Kevin Byard rumors and reports, because both of those are out there, some real, some imagined. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 12:01. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Titans made 5 new free agent signings official today, and most of them have spoken with Titans media. They are linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair, offensive lineman Daniel Brunskill and Andre Dillard, linebacker Luke Gifford, and pass rusher Arden Key. The Titans are also reportedly adding to their defensive backfield. According to Jordan Schultz, the team is signing free agent cornerback Sean Murphy-Bunting to a 1-year deal worth up to $5 million. The former second-round pick out of Central Michigan has been in Tampa Bay since being drafted in 2019. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once, and your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour. Call it third down here on this Monday. Hope your morning's off to a great start. It's over now. It's the afternoon. Cruising around in your car for your lunch break. Maybe you're on your way to Uncle Bud's. Who's to say? We're happy to have you guys here one way or the other, whether that's FM radio, live streaming on any social media platform, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, the app, podcast after the fact, whatever. Lovely to have you. 615-737-1045. Jump in at any point if you would like. Robert, Lucas, and myself, we've got you for one more hour, and we've got a lot of ground to cover. With everything that's happening in March Madness, I do think that we have to take a step back and go back to Friday while we were off the air and go through some of the things that were being put out there around Kevin Byard. We'll do that here in just about 15 minutes. But given that the Titans' recent free agent acquisitions, the 5 or 6 players that they have signed, Luke Gifford, Azeez Al-Shaair, Daniel Brunskill, Andre Dillard, Arden Key, and yet to be officially signed, but reported as signed, Sean Murphy-Bunting, the 5 of those official players spoke today. Now, there's 2 that I'm more interested in than the rest. That doesn't mean that they're above and beyond more important than the rest of the signings, but there's 2 players who I find to be particularly interesting, not just because of their position, but because of the money that's associated with them. What are you making a face about?
I want to hear your 2 players.
Andre Dillard and Arden Key.
Okay, then why last week did you go on a whole diatribe at how Azeez Al-Shaair is going to be the most impactful of these 5 signings?
Because he's doing a lot more within the defense. You're having 2 different discussions. You're touching every part of the defense. If, in fact, he's going to be calling the plays, which David Long used to do, which is who is he is set to replace. Now, I don't know that Al-Shaair is going to wear the green dot as soon as he's in there, but that inside linebacking spot has the ability to impact a lot more other things. 2 important positions are pass rush and left tackle. Don't try to twist my words.
I'm still struggling to see how the inside linebacker on a 1-year up to $6 million deal could have the biggest impact on this team when the Titans believe Arden Key and Andre Dillard will have a big enough impact to give them the money that they gave them, a 3-year deal for Andre Dillard.
The money is it's not really a 3-year deal. Neither of them are really 3-year deals.
But it's more significant, and it is a position of greater importance, which is something that you just said.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree.
So I'm just confused by your logic.
I don't know how many different ways I have to tell you. The linebacker talks to all the other players on the defense, and if the defense is going to be well executed, the linebacker's probably going to have to put them in place.
That's fine.
Impact.
That's
We're having 2 different conversations.
Potential for the greatest impact of any of these free agent signings.
You don't fight me this hard on anything else that we do. Why are you fighting me like this?
A few days later, all right, let's talk about the guys that I care most about of these signings, the 2 of the biggest importance regarding position and money. And neither of those guys is the guy that I said will have the biggest impact last week.
Oh, my God. Mom
and Dad, stop fighting. See what I'm saying, Bert?
Meanwhile, all right, let me start with Andre Dillard before we spin our wheels too much. Andre Dillard is here on a 3-year, $29 million deal reportedly. I still have not seen guaranteed money around it. I still have not seen structure. That leads me to believe that it is not a favorable contract if you're Andre Dillard. It is closer to the one-year rental deal that Alshire or Luke Gifford or NWI signed than it is to potentially Arden Key's deal, where there is guaranteed money being reported, but not a ton. It's 3 years, $21 million, average of 7, and a cap hit in year 1 of just about $3 million. Very, very friendly. That's probably the biggest contract that they signed. Now, Andre Dillard, the question was, does this recuse them from taking a left tackle at 11? You can debate that. You can discuss whether they should do it anyway and build depth or move Dillard inside, whatever the case may be. But Andre Dillard believes he's here for one specific purpose, which he spoke to on the podium about an hour ago.
Left tackle is definitely what I have my eyes set on. That's my goal. I'm going to compete, give everything I have to get that spot. But obviously, I'm willing to do whatever is best for the team at the end of the day. But left tackle is definitely what I have my sights set on.
So you got a sight set on the left tackle spot. Now, he would go on to add that he is more of a pass protector than a run blocker, which would seem antithetical for the team that he's getting ready to play for. So you better figure out the run blocking portion of that relatively quickly. But it does not mean that he can't be a serviceable left tackle. I don't know whether or not he's going to be a serviceable left tackle. There's been precious little evidence that he's a serviceable anything other than good depth. Now, the key signing to go along with Sean Murphy-Bunting at whatever point they make that official, based on reports by who you have now, Jordan Schultz reporting that this morning, very early this morning, that the Titans were agreeing to a 1-year up to $5 million deal with the 25-year-old corner, formerly of the Bucks. With the Murphy-Bunting signing, that theoretically fills up their starting positions on defense, right? If you go through, because Kevin Byard's still on the roster as we sit here today. So you got your 2 safeties. You've got your full complement of corners. If you want to slot Murphy-Bunting into a starting spot, you can. But right now, Fulton McCreary, Molden if you're in the nickel, and then inside linebacker, Rice and Alshire. Defensive line, some combination of Tart, Autry, Jeff, Edge, Harold, and Key. You've theoretically got your starters filled out on defense. Now, how that ends up playing itself out, whatever the case may be, we'll see once we get closer to training camp and these competitions start to ramp up and who's actually a starter and how much the starter actually matter if you're just going to be on a rotation with these kind of things, and it'll vary from game to game, potentially. But of the 8 starting jobs that were open on this roster by the end of the regular season, or once the cap-clearing moves have been made, you have at least 4 of those spots filled up. Now, Arden Key was asked about the defense that he's getting ready to play in. And he had some very nice things, very complimentary things to say about his new teammates, particularly Jeff Simmons, who he'll be on the defensive line with.
You see that D-line? I mean, Big Jeff, Danico Autry, Harold Landry coming back on the edge. I mean, it was self-explanatory there, just being with those guys and playing against Tennessee. It was always Tennessee D-line was bullies. Like, that's how they played. Everything was a bully. We're going to bully the offensive lineman. That's the type of play I play with. I'm a bully on the football field, and I feel like I fit right in with these guys.
Feels like he's a bully on the football field, and that'll acclimate him well to what it is that the Titans do. And by the way, when they're at their best, that's what they did. It's not just running the ball and being physical on offense and getting explosive plays from time to time, play action, pass, all these things. No, they're mugging dudes on the opposite side of the ball. Jeff, Danico, Bud when he was out there, Harold Landry when he was available, David Long and Zach Cunningham before Zach Cunningham ceased to be of value. They're just out there mugging dudes. And however you can fit the rotations, your ability to get pressure with 4 that lets you drop 7 into coverage, you win on 1st and 2nd down, you get absolutely crazy with the pressures on 3rd down, and you have a lot of success. It keeps you in playoff games while your quarterback throws 3 interceptions. It allows you the opportunity to take Patrick Mahomes to overtime on the road with a quarterback who has no business playing in the NFL right now in Malik Willis. That is that has been their greatest strength. How they try and recreate that now that the contracts along that defensive front are getting vastly more expensive. First Harold, soon Jeff. Putting Arden Key into the mix with the rest of those players, plus rotational guys like what you think you have in Rashad Weaver, if he can maintain a certain level of play, puts you in a pretty good position. I still think you need additional interior defensive line depth. Danico Autry's only going to last so long, and I have no idea how Jeff Simmons' contract situation is going to play out. But I do think that those two players are the ones that I'm most interested in seeing how much of their value they actually pay off in the first year that they're under contract. Because if the Titans can get a starting left tackle for $10 million a year, whew, are you kidding? If the Titans can replace Bud Dupree's horrendous contract with a value play in Arden Key, who's still a very young player in his career with a lot of potential and lately, in the last 2 seasons, quantifiable evidence to back it up, not just the Caleb Farley kind of potential, but real film where he's put it together and made an impact on a down-by-down basis, then I'll feel a lot better about what the Titans have done in free agency, even as I acknowledge, it's practical right now. Something that may not necessarily be practical, asking Kevin Byard to take a pay cut. There was a report late Friday afternoon that had indeed been the case and that Byard had not been receptive. We're going to talk about the cost-benefit analysis of asking Kevin Byard to take a pay cut or releasing him and whether any reports of him asking for his release are credible at this point. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. So, what do we make of the Kevin Byard reports and rumors? Because these are two different things. Now, this was a situation that arose on Friday. There was a tweet from Stillman that Kevin Byard had asked for his release from the Titans at about 2:30 in the afternoon. Bud, where were you at 2:30 in the afternoon on Friday after you and I only had to do 1 hour worth of show, and then the people at Party Foul were kind enough to let us, hang out and be degenerates in Party Foul at Cool Springs for a couple of hours.
I was at Party Foul.
You were still at Party Foul?
Yeah, I was sitting
at 2:30?
Sitting right next to Slade.
Oh, my God.
Watching games.
I had to get out
Brent,
of there.
Schaefer came out.
They let me have entirely too many mimosas. I had to leave.
It was great, man. Austin, like you mentioned, from Party Foul was great to us. A bunch of listeners came out and said hello. It was a great time.
So I was also in a bar, but in Sylvan Park by that point, and I had seen the initial tweet saying that Kevin Byard had asked for his release. So that immediately throws my Friday into flux, and I got to scramble the jets, and I got to start calling people to figure out, okay, did this actually happen? And if not, what is there something there beyond him asking for a release, which, by the way, I was told had not happened. That Kevin Byard did, in fact, not ask for his release, or at least to this point, as we sit here Monday, March the 20th at 12:22 and change, Kevin Byard had not asked for his release from the Titans. Could it happen? Sure, theoretically. But as of today, that's not the case. Now, there is a report from Adam Schefter about Kevin Byard that you can look at and read for yourself. That has also been followed up with our colleague Teron Davenport, who was, by the way, on this last week's episode of the 615 Sessions with me, and we talked a little bit about the Kevin Byard situation. So they have approached Kevin Byard about a pay cut. But Kevin Byard, reportedly, according to Adam Schefter, does not believe his play warrants a decrease in salary, according to ESPN. Now, Teron adds to this that Kevin Byard has not requested his release from the team. That is a second corroboration on the Kevin Byard situation that was, I think, threw a lot of people into flux, because when you saw that initial tweet on Friday, you start to wonder, okay, what have they done to make Kevin Byard ask for his release? And a pay cut would be a decent reason to ask for his release, because a trade with Kevin Byard would be difficult to do. By the way, be curious to know your reaction. 615-737-1045. What do you make of the idea that the Titans are approaching Kevin Byard, not Derrick Henry, not Ryan Tannehill, not yet anyway, but Kevin Byard has been the first reportedly approached about a pay cut. He's on the books for $19.6 million this year. They would save $6 million in cap space if they cut him. They would eat about $13.6 in dead cap. It's a brutal situation for a player who's been restructured a couple of times under a previous regime. Now, Kevin Byard is still one of the best players on this football team. Make no mistake. I don't think I have to tell you guys this. But that number is substantial. They are not wrong for approaching Kevin Byard about a pay cut. I don't have any issue with that. Where I will take issue is if they release Kevin Byard because he will not take a pay cut. If they do that, it says one of several things. First, that it doesn't matter what your significance to the organization is. It doesn't matter what your level of production has been. It doesn't matter if you're good soldier or malcontent. You can get got. Now, that's kind of the premise that most NFL players operate under. It's basically the business model that we all know about the NFL. But this is somebody who's an institution here. It's not just that he's one of the best Titans players that we've seen, and however you want to stack these things, whatever. I'm not interested in making a list necessarily, but he's a good player. He's a really, really good player, and the Titans haven't had a ton of players the caliber of Byard. He went to Middle Tennessee. He is beloved not just in Nashville by Titans fans, but in Murfreesboro, where he has his jersey number retired. He is somebody who has expressed in his own words on Locker Room Cleanout Day. In fact, can I hear from Kevin Byard about how he views his future, his career, his legacy since he was drafted by this team in the 3rd round?
For me? Yeah. Well, this is my legacy, man. I played my college ball here in Tennessee. Just finished my 7th year here in Tennessee. I would love to be able to retire as a Titan. This team, this city, this organization, the fans, community, it means a lot to me. It means a lot to my family. So definitely wouldn't want to play any other place, any other city, any other organization other than Tennessee Titans.
Okay. Now, we've heard that line before. That's the line that the fans love, and what are the fans asking now? But won't you take a pay cut, KB? Won't you think about it? It really helped the football team.
Are fans asking that?
I think there's a contingent of fans that are not uninterested in Kevin Byard taking a pay cut if it means the success of the whole. This is why the relationship that fans have with their favorite football teams is always interesting to me. Because most people work for somebody, right? But then when it comes time for the players to maximize their value as labor, then the fans typically side with management because fans don't care about the players' financial success. The fans care about the team's success. So it's antithetical about, most of us work for somebody. Most of us are not our own bosses. And so when you side against labor in that spot, I always find it a little hypocritical. But either way, it's not like all Titans fans feel that way. We'll get to your phone calls in a second. If they cut Kevin Byard because he won't take a pay cut, that I think is an unforgivable mistake. I think listen, the money is bad. It's bad. $19.6 million against your cap this year for a safety. Not good. Is it so bad that you would release one of the most important players to your franchise? The message that it would send to the locker room. The message that it would send to the fan base. The message that it would send to the player who has done everything within his power to try and make sure that you're not dead in the water. Kevin Byard tried to win that damn Cowboys game by himself. There are moments like that you have to take stock a little bit, and it can't always be not for long, and this is the business of the NFL. If they were to cut Kevin Byard because of a pay cut or a lack of interest in taking a pay cut, I think it would be in the same conversation. I'm not saying that it's as hurtful as trading Steve McNair to the Ravens, but I think it's the same kind of hurt that Samari Rolle, Derek Mason, and Steve McNair ending up on the Ravens caused a lot of Titans fans. If they cut Kevin Byard like this, I think it's in the same discussion as those three things that a lot of Titans fans have in their memory as one of the most hurtful things or one of the most painful moments that it was to be a Titans fan with favorite players on that roster.
Who would you rather they cut to save money if it had to be one of these two, Kevin Byard or Ryan Tannehill?
Ugh. Probably Byard. But the quarterback's just so much harder to figure out than the safety. The safety is not, listen, he's an all-pro, okay? Like he's one of the best players at his position in this era of football.
On track to be the best safety in Titans history.
And
he's on pace.
Still think the quarterback value and the difficulty of replacing the quarterback takes precedent. Now, if they cut Kevin Byard because they're legitimately not wild card, oh, wouldn't that be fun, Titans and Lamar Jackson. If they're legitimately thinking about putting together an offer for Lamar, then cut him. Cut them both. All of them. All three. I don't care at that point. Get rid of them. This franchise quarterback supersedes all.
That's what we should have made the poll. Would you sacrifice cutting Kevin Byard if it meant Lamar Jackson?
I mean, we got 30 minutes left in the show. You want to put it up? I mean, you're gonna send my mentions into a death spiral when you put that up for my account.
Oh yeah, you hate that. You hate when people interact with you on social media.
I hate when they're screaming at me. I don't mind when it's jokes about Indiana, but I hate when they're screaming at me.
I think you prefer it when they're screaming at you.
Well, only when I can use it for content. What would your reaction be if they released Kevin Byard for not taking a pay cut? Because they're at a crossroads. This is the quote. Byard's plan has always been, you just heard from KB himself, but this is from Adam Schefter's report. Byard's plan has always been to play for one organization and ultimately retire as a Titan, but the two sides are at a crossroads, according to sources. What direction they choose to take at the crossroads will tell you a lot about the direction that Rand Carthon and, by extension, Mike Vrabel are looking at 2023 with. Emily is in the borough up first. Hey, Emily.
Hey, Buck, how's it going?
It's going great.
If they let Byard get away through the Titans, I hope they lose every game they play. I'm done with them if they let him get away. That's all I've got.
Well, Emily, can I just ask you if it is, and there's nothing around this that's concrete, but if it is a move to help them make a play for Lamar Jackson, a franchise quarterback, you'd still take that position?
I don't. Byard stays.
Okay.
Period.
I'm with you.
Kevin on YouTube says, let me remind you all, Buck told you we were crazy and wrong for wanting Todd Downing fired during the season. Guy just likes to play devil's advocate sometimes. So annoying.
I'm a one-man show. I don't have a choice. Like, I have to have multiple arguments. I have to present.
Yeah, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus.
What, me or Kevin?
No, that it's a one-man show.
Oh.
None of those other things.
Okay, sorry.
Where's Bert?
Sorry.
Get in here, Bert. You know what this man said?
Sorry, boys. You're right. It's not. But I mean, I do think it's incumbent upon me to present multiple angles on the argument. Like, you have to. Now, how you want to formulate your opinion is entirely upon you. But I'm not just going to present you one single narrow-minded way to look at things. You have to have multiple options on the table because there's no perfect solution to any of this stuff. Let's go to Neil in Nashville next. Hey, Neil.
Look, how are you doing, bud?
Good, buddy.
Hope you're staying warm. I want to say this. I would keep Kevin Byard. He's a good safety. John Robinson gave him that contract. As an employee here in Nashville, if you're, I'm not sure how many people will want to take a pay cut. The contract, what it is. I do want to say this, though. I know the contract salary cap can be, fluctuated, however, and I know guaranteed money is real money. If Amy Adams Trump does not have the money to pay these players, because I think, what does she have, like $700 million or something for the new stadium, guaranteed money that they have to push out? Well, then she needs to think about selling the team because, you can't be cheap when it comes to getting good players. And I don't want Lamar Jackson either because his last playoff game against Buffalo, he looked like hot garbage. Now, I know he can light up the league during the regular season. I've seen him in the playoffs, and the only reason why he beat the Titans that game was because Kevin Byard whiffed on an open run and he ran for a long touchdown. So I'm okay on Lamar Jackson not coming here. I want a pocket-style quarterback that can read a defense and make adjustments within the game. That's one thing I think that is missing in the NFL now. All these colleges want to go with an option quarterback. Do not go to Kevin Byard.
Thank you, Neil. That's 60 seconds on the clock. That's why you got the Oscars music. So the idea of the money, okay? I think that I don't know what their books look like, all right? So let me not sit here and play pocket watcher for the Adams Strunk family, for the Titans ownership group. They're not the richest ownership group in the NFL. Let's say that. And having to liquidate $700 million worth of assets so that they have $700 million to put into the new stadium project is not insignificant. You would probably have to have cash on hand, and I don't know which players specifically they're referring to, but you have to have the money in escrow if you're going to hand out these guaranteed dollar deals, right? $200 million is probably something cash on hand that you have to have if you're going to make a play for Lamar Jackson. Again, I cannot tell you specifically what the Titans ownership groups, I don't know specifically their financials. I know that they do not rank among the wealthiest ownership groups in the league. That's all the information that I can disclose to you other than what's being reported about assets that they have, assets that they've liquidated, what percentage of money is theirs going into the stadium, and all these other things that are already on the books for the Titans organization. But it is a factor. It is a factor if you are an ownership group that is not cash flush the way that several are. It's a problem that the NFL is going to have to figure out because a lot of these like the Walton Penner group that bought the Broncos. Jeff Bezos is apparently going to get in on the Commanders for somewhere in the area of $5 to $6 billion. You'll start squeezing out some of these not as cash flush ownership groups. Mark Davis traded away Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper because they couldn't get the cash on hand. I don't know that that's the Titan situation. It would be reckless of me to speculate one way or the other because we specifically don't know. But it is something to consider anytime you're having one of these $200 million discussions around a player, and there aren't many except for the quarterbacks, but it's something to keep in mind. Oscar in Nashville is next. Hey, Oscar.
Hey, how's it going, Buck?
Going good.
All right, so I just got to say, any Titans fan, you're out of your mind if you wouldn't get rid of Ryan Tannehill, Kevin Byard, and Derrick Henry for Lamar Jackson. He's the real deal, 100%. I'm not going to those people out here wants a pocket passer. I want somebody that can win games, that can play football. Lamar can do just that. And I thought you made a good point about people being, kind of hypocritical with not wanting players to get played but wanting their team's success. That's a really good point, and I always hate to say this, but he is getting paid $19 million to play safety at the end of the day. And I just think that's, always hate to give that perspective, but hey, man, that's a lot of money to be playing safety. I know he's good at it, but I would lose KB. I love him. He's great for the team, but I would lose him. I would give up just about everything in Nashville. I'd sell the Parthenon for Lamar Jackson. Yeah. Go Titans. I'm down to cut whoever. Let's get it done.
Thanks, Oscar. What do you think? I don't think they actually do it. I don't know what Rand Carthon's going to do. I don't know
what
this
is
guy
it?
like that. Cut Byard.
Okay.
It would be, especially if there's not a corresponding move that you have to cut Kevin Byard for.
Because the savings are not monumental.
No, it's $6 million.
$6 million. And then you eat twice that in dead money.
Correct.
If it's pre-June 1st.
You eat $13 million if it's pre-June 1st.
Yeah, so I think that move would have people looking around like, what are we doing? Oh, those savings are worth cutting a guy that's been this important to this franchise?
They cut Ben to save almost 4.
That's a totally different situation. Totally different situation.
Well, Ben is not at the stage of his career that Byard is.
Ben missed 5 times more games this season than the rest of his high school, college, and pro career combined.
That's correct.
Kevin Byard,
and concussions is a factor.
Kevin Byard's in a good spot. He's so consistently available. Mike Vrabel, as much as he called out Christian Fulton and David Long being repeat offenders for soft tissue stuff, he used Kevin Byard as his variable of the example of availability.
I just I wonder what KB's thinking. How does that initial conversation go? We obviously don't know. This is purely speculation. But how do you even approach Kevin Byard and be like, hey man, no, you're really good. Love you. You're one of the best players that we have. You're one of the best leaders that we got. You've been nothing but a model citizen every year that you've been here. But $19 million, bud. It's a lot of money. I would so tell them to kick rocks. Everybody's different, right? Not everybody should value financial success or wealth over, the common good. And the common good in this case is the success or failure of the football team. And it's specific to everybody's individual workplaces. But I would absolutely tell them to kick rocks. You got to be kidding me. Now, none of it ultimately matters if they win games. If they win games, then it doesn't matter who's on the team. You'll care about the players who are on the team. You'll care about the coaches who are on the team. You'll care about the people who are winning and why you're winning. But Kevin Byard's been a part of a lot of winning here and is still capable of doing so. And to screw around this way with one of your most important players, that should not be taken lightly by the fan base. Last call for phone calls. We'll update the polls. We'll take a few more. We'll wrap it up. If you still have more thoughts on this, Blaine and Mickey, I'm sure are going to discuss 3HL after that. But for our portion, 615-737-1045. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. All right, so we got a variety of reaction coming in about the Kevin Byard situation. Hollywood Vols at Hollywood Titan on Twitter says, if the Titans cut Kevin Byard, you can count me done as a fan. Mayberry _61 says it wouldn't be just KB for Lamar. It would be KB, couple of firsts probably, and more, plus a massive deal to acquire Lamar Jackson. And Jacob Scott says, let's keep the highest paid player in the secondary on a team that finished 32nd against the pass. Don't want to see him go, but I get it. So a variety of different reactions to this. Last call for phone calls before we update some polls. Let's go to White House. Mike is calling us from White House up next. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Buck. Appreciate you taking my call. And Lucas kind of hit it on the head, man. Like, you only got $6 million you're going to save by cutting Byard. I mean, I would just go ahead and, take the $6 million, get the production out the guy. You still got, if you're looking at getting Lamar Jackson, man, Tannehill's got to go. I don't see anybody coming up to him saying anything. And then, you're still, Big Jeff is still looming out there. So there's other question marks with Lamar Jackson's injury history, man. I don't think that he's worth commanding that much money anyway. That's all I got for you.
I appreciate the call. You're not the only. I mean, listen, Lamar has been able to receive contract sheets, term sheets from teams since last Wednesday at 3 o'clock. And apparently there's not a single concrete one out there yet. So the Ravens, it seems, now we'll see how this ultimately plays out, but the Ravens, it seems, have made the right assessment in placing the non-exclusive tag on him, which keeps Lamar under contract for one more year at $32.5 million, which is very, very reasonable, and makes another team have to tell Lamar Jackson, no, you're not worth the kind of money that you're looking for, plus 2 first-round picks. Corbin in Mount Juliet is next. Hey, Corbin.
What's going on, man?
What's up?
All right, we have great wide receivers, but when you look at it, who do we have that's a big franchise wide receiver? We have no big names on offense. Yeah, we have Tannehill. Tannehill's been around a while.
Wait, can I stop you, Corbin? Did you say you have great wide receivers?
Try not to offend people, but personally, I don't really feel like it. We need somebody on offense to bring people to the games in Nashville to get excited, like people with big jersey sales. Lamar's your guy. I think we need Lamar. Get rid of Henry. Get rid of Tannehill. Get rid of Byard. Let's make a offensively powerful team with a great running quarterback.
Well, I mean, right now, none of the Lamar Titan stuff is like actually real. It's just kind of wild card stuff that people are throwing out there about fits that make sense for Lamar, and it would be a good fit, but we don't know that necessarily. We don't know that necessarily that there is real evidence to suggest that the Titans are in on Lamar Jackson. Okay, polls.
Why so serious? Let's put a smile on that face. I don't know where the Batman is. Doesn't matter because here's Lucas Panzica on the Buck Rising Show. Update the polls, Lucas. Here we go.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on any non-specialty new Ford. How far can this Tennessee basketball team go? 42% say the run ends in the Elite Eight. 39% say Final Four. 19% go national championship. Audie in the reply says they're losing to FAU.
I can't speak intelligently on FAU. I have not watched them play much basketball other than what I've seen in tournament highlights. But do they match up well? Do they match up poorly? I'm sure we'll talk more about the matchup before Thursday.
They don't have the size to go up against Tennessee physically, but they do have the speed to get around Tennessee, which I imagine is what they're going to try to do.
And that's a problem.
By the way, did you see the way Memphis lost to FAU?
Oh, my God.
How that game ended?
Vegas made a killing on this bracket this year, but the way that Memphis lost was tough. I know that I'm going through it today with my team out of the tournament, but I know Memphis fans are down bad today, too.
Tennessee fans are not going to be mourning Memphis's first-round loss, but it would have been pretty cool to have a Tennessee-Memphis Sweet 16 matchup.
It'll be a lot of fun.
What result this weekend busted your bracket? Our friend Travis says, thinking IU could ever make a run in this tournament.
They got manhandled by Miami. It wasn't even close. I can't even act like they should have been in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, Dwayne says Kansas was in his Final Four. Most people say Purdue. Koltiak arrest says Marquette. I also had Marquette in my Final Four. They were one of the hottest teams coming into the tournament. Michigan State, Tom Izzo to them.
Missouri and Memphis kind of banged me. Both of them really banged me.
Yep.
As far as advancing in my bracket, but my tournament champion's still alive in the Crimson Tide.
What is the number one thing you want to learn from Tennessee's spring practice? Jordan says how the secondary starts to shake out. Eric goes with Nico Iamaleava's development. Parker says, can Joe Milton throw a corner route? Karen also wondering about Joe Milton's accuracy. I wonder how much those questions will persist despite his good performance in the Orange Bowl if people feel like they need to see it in a more consistent manner.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a talking point until he gets out on the field and does otherwise, right? It can't just be one. It's do it again.
Because the accuracy issues were there against Vanderbilt in his first start of the season after Hooker got hurt, and then he looked great in the Orange Bowl, so we will see. What would your reaction be if the Titans were to cut Kevin Byard? We probably should just stop doing these because it just ends up being a bunch of GIFs that I can't adequately describe because it would just make for terrible radio. But Rick says he's not worried. They won't. He feels like they'd cut Tannehill before they cut Byard.
I don't think that's true. You want more than that?
What do you mean?
I said I don't think that's true, and then you looked down in silence.
Would you be okay with cutting Kevin Byard if it meant signing Lamar Jackson? 56% say no.
56% say no, and that's about a 20-minute-old poll with how many votes?
Oh, you're going to make me pull it up again. Almost 700.
Okay. So not bad. I mean, it's a decent sample size. So that is the polls. Those are the polls, yes?
Yep.
That's the show. Blaine and Mickey going to continue the discussion. I'm sure Kevin Byard, Lamar Jackson talk is coming your way. 3HL on after that. I'll dive into more Lamar Jackson details with you tonight on A to Z Sports Prime Time, about 8 p.m. Central on the A to Z Sports Network. Meanwhile, have a great rest of your afternoon, and I will talk to you either tonight or tomorrow morning when the radio show starts at 10. See you guys.